Hey everybody, welcome to Beach Theory.
Hey!
This is episode 6, I think, of season 2.
Wow.
That's
a
we're
lot
already
of
like
seasons
well into season 2.
and episodes.
Well, how many episodes do we have in season 1? I don't remember.
I don't even know.
It was a lot, but I don't know if season 2 is going to be more or not.
Yeah, I don't either.
This will be interesting.
I did want to do something, however, because I feel like our podcast life is so different than our everyday life and like what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. We basically will plan maybe one day a week when we've run out of podcasts to film more podcasts.
Yeah.
But I was like, hey, we should tell what we filmed in the past week every time we like
At the beginning of each podcast?
Yeah. Like, what did we film this past week? Because
I filmed a bunch of Zelda videos, Zelda Link's Awakening.
I filmed 24 hours as a baby
You
where
just wanna
Ryan had to
talk
take
about
care
that.
of me. I love it. I am so excited. I cannot wait for the premiere.
Oh, and just yesterday we got interviewed by ABC4 News.
Yeah. It has been a interesting week, and you know, I feel like we are the types of people that just work our butts off and then we forget what we've done, and we just feel like if we don't get something done that day, we're failures, you know.
Right.
And I'm like, I was just thinking, no, we need to like give ourselves a pat on the back and be like, look at all the things we've done this week. We are very productive people, you know.
Well, we kind of have to be in order to continue to see the success in our life that we want.
But I'm just saying, like, I think it's good to recognize what we have done and not always just be like waiting for the next thing, because we'll never be satisfied.
Yeah.
And we won't ever be satisfied. But what we can do is recognize what we have done and appreciate that.
Well, when you say we won't be satisfied, it makes it sound like we're not content with the amount of work that we're doing. Like, we might not ever be like, okay, we're officially done, we're never going to film again. But we are satisfied in the terms of like, I feel really good about what we got done today.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
That was very satisfying to be able to accomplish
but like
something.
if we miss a day and we don't end up filming, those are the days that it's like, oh, we've failed, when in reality we've still accomplished so much. You know,
maybe
what I mean?
we did
like
school with the kids, or maybe we sold the vehicle, or
like that
did
week we
something
filmed I don't know, 15 videos, but it's like taking a day off. We don't ever say we're going to take a day off on this day. We don't do that.
No.
So
it's always out of necessity. It's usually like we have to do this stuff.
Yeah.
And so then we'll do it. And sometimes that means we didn't get any filming done that day, but
yeah,
it's usually justified.
So anyways, we filmed a drive-through switch prank on the Becca and Ryan show. I guess this week has kind of been focused on the Becca and Ryan show. That's about it, right?
Well, I filmed
Here's
with Ryan.
the baby. Here, hand me the baby. He's
Okay.
so cute.
I filmed with Ryan and Shinoe and Jessica last weekend on the 1st of November. 20 episodes for the Beach House, a big series treasure hunt. And so because we're so far ahead now on the Beach House, we're kind of like focusing all of our extra efforts on our other channels.
Which is really nice, actually, to be able to do that, because most of the time we're like scrambling to make sure we get the Beach House, because that's our channel that makes the most money.
That's the most important.
So we're like,
and
top priority Beach House videos, always.
And then because of that, we run out of time and we don't always have time to film our other channels. But now, because we're so far ahead on the Beach House, it's like, oh, we don't even have to think about that. We can just work on all our other channels.
It's kind of
which
weird,
is nice.
honestly. I mean, it's nice, but it's a little bit weird. I keep thinking, oh, we gotta film for the Beach House in like this panic mode.
Yeah.
Anyways, today we are talking about 1997.
Yeah. Childhood memories, experiences.
What happened that year?
We're still kind of delving into our past life. It feels like a whole nother life.
Oh my
really.
goodness. Yeah. It really does. It doesn't feel like, I mean,
because I'm a different person now.
I'm a different person too. And like, just, we've gone through so much and we've progressed so much, and life is 100% different than it was back then.
Yeah. And I think we're just a lot more mature and a lot older and capable to do more
Michael's
amazing
messing
things.
with my mic.
Well, I could use a little bit of help, but your hands are full, so there we go. I think that'll work. Hopefully the audio sounds good for you guys.
Yeah.
And we also have video to go along with it. And you can see Becca's bouncing Max on her legs right now, trying to help manage baby and record podcast.
Yep. And hold the mic with my foot.
Which is never easy. Hey, Ellie, you can stop that.
Can you go get those wipes? We'll set them on the other part of it. We'll just use whatever we got around here.
So the last thing we talked about was my family. We went on a big road trip during the summer of 1996. And that fall, we came back home, and I went back to public school for the 4th grade year. And I remember 4th grade being a lot more comfortable than 3rd grade. I don't remember getting picked on as much. In fact, my mom listened to episode 5, or episode 4, I can't remember which, and she was like, I remember you being bullied.
Does
I remember,
she?
Yeah, she told me. She's like, I remember you telling me about that. And I remember I was like, really, really concerned for you. Yeah, she actually said that we had this is all stuff I don't remember, but she was like, you need to say this so that people don't think I just didn't care about you. And I was like, honestly, I didn't leave it out because I was just being neglectful. Like, I legitimately don't remember. But apparently she had some parent-teacher conferences and they brought it up. And I guess the teacher's response to her, and this is what she told me, she said the teachers told her, basically, there's really nothing we can do.
That's terrible.
Yeah. Like,
somebody's getting bullied, beat up, actually punched and kicked, and
the teachers were like, we really can't do anything. They talked to the kid's parents and the kid about it, but but as far as like making it stop, obviously they can't make it stop.
Force somebody to be nice, I guess.
And so my mom, I remember she told me, she's like, so I asked the teacher, can he fight back? And what would you do if he did?
They can't do anything.
And that was their response. Well, we can't really do anything. So it was kind of like
she probably was like,
way of
you
saying,
can beat him up. It's okay. And you're like, okay.
So now it makes more sense why I remember being told, just punch him back. Well, now.
Wait, so she did say that.
She filled in the blanks a little bit. By saying what would happen if he fought back. And the teacher said, well, we can't do anything about that. So in the last podcast, I said somebody, and I don't remember who gave me the advice to fight back. Well, now I know why they gave me that advice.
Yep.
And we actually would wrestle a lot. And I remember getting like some boxing gloves or whatever, just pretending and playing with the family. And maybe that was part of the reason why. So.
Wow. That makes me happy, actually. Because I do think sometimes people just have to stand up for themselves and not let people bully them.
Right.
And they are not naturally inclined to punch someone in the face. But if they keep getting punched in the face over and over again, I would also do the same thing that your mom did. I would encourage you to just defend yourself.
Defend yourself or get out of the situation. If you can get out of the situation, is always going to be better. But if you can't leave the situation, don't let people walk all over you.
Okay. I guess in my mind, I've always been this justice person. I'm like, okay. Or like, if I see something unfair, I'm going to say something about it. If it's completely unfair and totally rude and out of like, it's not okay to do something, then I'm going to say something about it. I'm not somebody who's just going to stand back and be like, I'm scared. Like, I'm not like that. Probably because I had Andrew as my older brother and Ryan as my older brother and then Steven as my younger brother. And that's like, I was surrounded by boys all the time and they're rough. And like, I had to defend myself as a girl. And like, all growing up, I just felt that exact same way. I was like, if somebody beats up on my family, they're going to hear about it from me. Like, if I was in your family and I was ever around, those people would have been pretty sad. And I'm not like threatening. I'm just saying like, I would have defended you.
Yeah.
I will defend my family. And it just makes me sad to hear that, like, I don't know. I'm glad they stopped doing that to you.
I think I get triggered when I see people bullying other people because it reminds me of the vulnerability of my youth.
Isn't that so funny? I feel like triggered is such a new word that everybody's using all the time. Triggered. Is that new or is that just me?
No, I don't know. You're just more aware of it now maybe than you were before. But like when I see a kid getting picked on or bullied, like I just want to come in and take those kids out, like show them, I don't
Like,
know.
It's like from your childhood, now you're like, now I can make sure this doesn't happen to anybody
Yeah.
that's around me.
Yeah, because when I was a little kid, I was just super scrawny and just afraid of everything. And so now that I'm in a position where it's like I'm not afraid of anybody, or I'm not afraid of kids especially. I see 6-year-olds that are picking on another 6-year-old that's younger or smaller than them, and I'm like, come here, I'll show you, and maybe they have a reason, maybe they're picked on, I don't know, but ultimately I just can't stand
This
it.
makes you sound like an adult that goes around beating up kids.
Well, I only brought it up because it reminded me of the story. Didn't your dad do that one time?
Oh, he did. And that is a little bit later. That was in like 2000, the year 2000. But
And honestly, like, before you get into that story, when I heard about that story, I was like, man, I think I might do that same thing as a dad.
if
I was
our
in that
kids were
same
going to public
position,
school and
yeah,
getting
like
bullied.
if I saw someone picking on bullying one of my kids, boy, I'd take him out so fast.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, within reason, right? Because we are adults and they are kids, but it's just defending your family, protecting your family. And I think it's sad because a lot of kids do bully other kids, but it's because of their parents that are that way.
Maybe the kids' parents are bullies, and so then they become bullies. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm
it
sure
doesn't
that
originate from nothing. I think
anyone that's a bully probably probably I'd be surprised if they didn't have something in their life
that was bullying them.
that was hurting them.
Yeah.
And then to find some type of a relief there,
Totally
hurting other people to make themselves feel better or whatever. There's always a reason. No one's just a mean person just because they love being mean.
Like some kids go through a lot,
Yeah, I agree with you. Nothing justifies bullying, but at least if you understand the person and maybe why, it can help you at least.
And let's clarify a couple things. Our kids haven't gotten bullied. So we've never really...
They've been bullied by each other.
They've bullied each other. And occasionally...
Sometimes that's just as bad or worse.
I know. And occasionally they've bullied other kids, like in nursery or something, like where they're very young and we have to explain to them, don't do that. But we haven't ever run into a situation where we're like, I just want to kick that kid's butt. Or we're never like that. And we're very careful too, to make sure that our kids are treating other kids nicely. And if we find out that they haven't been, they get in trouble, because obviously it's two-sided. Like, it's not just one-sided. And I want to make sure that our kids are being the type of kid that I want other kids, treating other people the way that I want them to be treated.
I think maybe, and especially in our kids' situations, like,
it's different.
They don't know better, or maybe they just aren't aware socially what's acceptable, and so they might be mean to another person, that they otherwise, I don't know.
They haven't had a lot of... they have had experiences being around a lot of other kids because of YouTube, actually, with all of our other YouTube friends. But, at school specifically, I don't think they've had a lot of... they haven't been to public school. So they don't get, what I got as a kid, which is, oh, I see that one kid getting bullied or being left out. And I remember my mom being like, if you see kids that are being left out and that want to be part of, the group, but people are being mean to them, you go hang out with them and treat them nicely and make sure that they feel good and included,
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess that's something that our kids haven't really experienced too much of, because they're just home all day.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they experience other things that I never experienced. So
do you want to talk about what your dad did?
Oh.
You don't have to if you don't. I don't know if
it's not the same year at all. But
it's kind of
my
related.
dad, that's true, it's related. My dad, there was this kid, and I'm not going to say his name because...
Doesn't matter. Go on.
Anyways, there's this kid, and he kept saying, crude things to me, and it was, flirtatious in a really bad way.
How old were you?
I was 9 or 10, and he kept saying all these things, and then he would butt in line in front of me or my brother Steven. And one day he did that, and Steven, I think, stood up to him and was like, "Don't do that to my sister," or something, and he punched Steven in the stomach, I think. I hope I'm remembering this all right. But and then after school something happened, and like I think he took Steven's bike. Like, he was being a bully to Steven big time, and to me, I was just like, I think I was standing up to him, but he was like a big kid. Like, he was actually really big, like overweight, and as a little boy, intimidating and rude, and just like, so anyways, at the time I don't know, I think I stood up to him and yelled at him or something, but like, we were both kind of upset, and my dad came to pick us up at school. And we went out to the car and we're like, "Dad, this boy did this, and this." And my dad was like, "He did what?" And he's like, "Show me where he is." And so like he went in the school, and he went down the hallway, he found the kid, and he lifted up the kid from like by his collar and held him up against the wall and said, "Don't you ever treat my kids that way." And the principal saw him and was like, "Come to my office." He got in trouble. He got sent to the principal's office. And the principal was like, "Listen, you can never do that to any kids. I don't care who they are. I don't care if they're beating up your kids. You can never, ever, ever do that to any kids ever again." And she said, "I'm really sorry that happened with your kids getting like bullied from him, but you are in trouble. Like, don't ever do that again." And Dad left very like solemn. Which I laugh about it now, but at the time, even if that happened today, I would be like, "Oh my goodness, he might even get like sent to prison or something." Like, that would be so bad. Totally.
To press charges.
Totally. But thankfully, he just left us alone from that day on, because he knew that our dad was very protective of us.
But when I hear about stuff like that, I'm like, man, it's a good thing our kids aren't in public school, because I just don't think I would be able to.
You don't know if you could handle it?
I don't know if I could put up with that, just because it's just so wrong. Like,
well, you know your boundaries, you know your limits, and it's a good thing we do homeschool. Like, we've even had, I guess we have had a tiny bit of, I would call it teasing, not bullying, just like where we're living now. But the sad part is it's been with Charlie a little bit, and that hurts so bad, because he's like the sweetest little boy, but he was taking what some little kids were teasing him, and he was taking it very seriously and not recognizing that if he were to just embrace what they were teasing him with, they would completely stop, because it was fun, because he resisted so hard. Like, and I think that's something that I recognized very early on, and was like, "Oh, they'll leave me alone if it doesn't hurt. If I don't let it affect me, they're like, oh, this isn't fun anymore." So I think that's something that our kids haven't learned yet. But I think it's super important. And so especially with me as their mom, I'm a big tease. So
you never do it because you get a bad reaction.
Well, sometimes.
Occasionally there have been times where, like, "Becca, you need to stop."
Well, but it's never mean. It's always like,
you're always doing it to be funny, but sometimes they take it in a bad way.
Yes, but then that is exactly the time where I'm like, they need to learn.
There's a difference.
Because this is different when it's their mom teasing them than if another kid teases them and they take it seriously. Yeah. Like, I would rather have them learn that lesson from me than anyone else, because I have this undying love for them. Those other people that are going to say that or do those things don't. Yeah. So I think it's important to learn. So now I'm just going to let you know I have to tease all the kids mercilessly. So just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So this is not at all what I was planning on talking about today, by the way.
The year 1997 bullying.
Well, because we talked about that on the last video, and I was kind of just wanting to clarify something, and then it just totally overtook this whole episode.
That's okay. That's how our life is.
So I want to talk about
Sporadic.
4th grade.
Unpredictable.
4th grade, I felt like I was getting a lot more comfortable. I had a lot more friends. I don't remember getting bullied at all in the 4th grade.
Yeah.
Like,
Did you have the same people in the class?
I don't think there was one person who was the same in my 4th grade year.
Oh, wow.
It was all different.
Was it a different school?
Same school. But
Oh,
this was the year when we were all out in portables. We were in those.
Oh, yeah, portables.
They called them
like
portables. Just
basically a trailer school classroom.
But that was the year that I sewed jean legs onto my arm sleeves onto my shirt because I thought it was cool.
Your mom chopped off some pants and then you were like, I don't want to throw these away. I want to add them to my sleeves.
Oh, good times.
I'll make sure to make you one of those.
And all my friends thought I was weird. What the heck? But yeah, and there was a couple girls in that class that I liked. There was a little Asian girl that I liked, and then there's another little black girl that I liked. And they both liked me.
Oh, why am I not surprised? You're such a ladies' man.
Oh man, I was such a nerd, and I had like these big, huge buck front teeth. Both of my front teeth were just like sticking way out, and I lost the ones on the sides, so it was just like even more exaggerated.
Yeah.
And they poked out really far. Like they weren't straight and big; they like poked out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I just I don't know. I just had really bad
I think
teeth.
James has had that for a little while, but he's finally got his teeth on either side growing in, and I feel like it's making the gap in his front teeth like get
Go away,
smaller,
yeah.
and it's also making them not look like buck teeth because now he has other teeth around them.
Yeah. That's a hard age still, just because I remember at that age looking in the mirror and being like, man, just not having good self-esteem, not thinking that I looked good as a person.
Aww.
And I don't know, that's never a good thing.
Yeah. I remember looking in the mirror and thinking, I look cute.
That's true. You did, and you do, and you always have.
But I remember thinking, I'm so frustrated because actually in 1997, I was living in Spanish Fork, and we went to public school, and my mom and dad had had a big chunk of money saved up, but then somebody kind of swindled them and was like, I need that money, that $30,000 or whatever, as an investment into our business. And they were like, you're going to get such a high return on your investment, you're going to love it. And then they ran away with the money. And my mom and dad actually ended up having to go bankrupt because of somebody else, and it wasn't their fault at all. Like, it was so sad because it was the first time I remember ever having money, like, enough for clothes, like school clothes. Like, most of the time it was hand-me-downs from people in our ward, our church, and like, it was a big deal at the time. I remember talking to my mom and being like, Mom, can I go to the store and get some clothes? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, what? You always say no. You always say no. And she's like, yeah, let's go get some. And it was just for me. Like, I think it was like not even at the beginning of the school year. There was only really one time when we would get new clothes, and it was at the very beginning of the school year, one new outfit for school. But this wasn't during the beginning of the school year. It was like a couple months in. And so it was so crazy to me that I got another new outfit. And then we went bankrupt. And it wasn't because of the new outfit.
You bought so many clothes.
I bought so many clothes that I went bankrupt. No, Jeez. It was one new outfit. And then very soon after that, I remember we lost all of our money. And I remember my mom and dad sold a nicer new car that we had. And I remember that we ended up getting an older vehicle. We lost our house, or didn't lose it, but we moved because we couldn't afford it anymore. And we went bankrupt, and basically we ended up at a rental in a very small house, and I think all the girls were in one room, all the boys were in another. We might have had more bedrooms than that, but it was...
Is this in Fountain Green?
Yeah.
Okay.
And with the landlord, and that, so that was basically 1997 to 1999.
Oh, you guys were in that house for 2 years?
No, sorry. 1997 to 1998, we were in Spanish Fork. And then in 1999, the very beginning of the school year, I remember it was when we moved to Fountain Green.
Okay.
Because of the bankruptcy. Oh, that was so hard. That was really difficult. And I think things changed. I think my parents went from having an attitude of plenty to scarcity. Like, everything went scarce because we didn't have the money. We didn't have what we needed. I think we had food stamps at that time. And I just remember my mom and my dad struggling so much. And at that time, they still had 9 kids at home.
Yeah.
And actually, Shinaway was born in Fountain Green, so at that time, we had 8 kids at home.
And your mom would have been pregnant soon after that, huh?
Yep.
Wow.
And she had a miscarriage. And she...
Before Shinaway?
Right after Shinaway, she had a miscarriage. And it was just like...
Like a year after Shinaway or like right after Shinaway? Because
like a year after
who gets
Shinaway.
pregnant right after having a baby?
No, it was a little while after Shinaway. But it was just one huge hit after another that basically, I feel like it ran my parents down in hope. And they ended up being in that house in Fountain Green for a couple of years. I think we were there from 1999 till 2001, the end of 2001. And I just think that they didn't really want to be there. They had to be there.
Yeah.
And it just made it so sad. But every single place, I think this is really interesting. Every single place we lived in, my parents have made it better than when they found it. Uh-oh, nobody's pushing Max around.
It's hey! Right. Corbin's getting on it.
So anyways, I feel like they've taught me so much in their ability to still be happy, to still try, to still make things better than when they found them, even if they have nothing to make it really happen. I don't know.
That's good. Being thrifty.
Totally being thrifty and figuring out ways to bless our family and like have the things we wanted or needed, even though they didn't have money to do it. So like my dad just would trade and barter and do all these things to make us get what we needed. And he actually worked at the dump at the time. Like that was the job that he got right after he lost his job because I think it was like we were just barely getting into investing or something. And then they took all of his money and then they went bankrupt. And then we were like, okay, we need a different job. And then I don't know. I'm foggy on those details because I would just remember like the main things of bankruptcy, losing money, losing the car, having to move. Like, so I'm sure my mom and dad would be able to explain it a lot better, like what actually happened at that time. But I just remember like a lot of family council meetings and saying everything's going to change. And I remember them saying, we're going to move to the country. And all I could picture was everybody in overalls chewing on sticks of hay and like straw hat. That was what I thought the country was because I was from the big city.
You know what's so funny about your parents saying they're going to be moving to the country is...
They might have not even said that, but then when I saw, like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, I guess compared to where I grew up in Florida, all of Utah is the country. And so, like, the different, like, going from Spanish Fork or Springville or really anywhere in Utah County to Mount Pleasant, it's like, or to Fountain Green, that's not that big of a change in terms of moving to the country relative to where I come from.
They didn't have stores, though.
So, I wouldn't say we're moving to the country because we already lived in the country.
You know when we first got there?
All of Utah's hillbillies and hicks.
When we first got to Fountain Green, all they had was Terrell's. They did not have Walmart.
Uh-huh.
It was like...
No, it's definitely
like
country.
No big box store. Only mom and pop like country stores for grocery shopping. And the groceries were way more expensive because we were so far away from cities. Like...
All right, so I guess I can see that a little bit more. And having a probably bigger yard.
Oh, and it was smaller back then.
Traffic.
Like there was a lot less
But when you live in
things.
Spanish Fork, you have a lot of neighbors.
There were stores a
You're
block
on a
away.
city street.
Like,
I guess I can see the difference.
yeah,
there.
and then we moved to a place where there was literally no neighbors. Like, we were the only house, and then there was one
On the
other
dirt
house
road.
who was our landlord on that dirt road, like
yeah.
a block from our house. So it was 2 houses.
Move into
I
the
remember,
country.
like, when we first got there, we would any cars we would hide from. Like, we would jump off the side of the road and hide and wait for the car to go past, and then we're like, I don't know why we did that. Like, oh, there's a car coming.
Well, it's a fun game.
Yeah.
I remember playing
Because
that
it was
game.
so rare that a car came, and then it felt weird when a car came, so we were all like hiding from them.
I remember as a kid when we were living in Pine Hills around that same time, playing basketball out on the street,
Yeah.
and then car, and everyone would get out of the road.
That was how it was
There
in
was a car
Spanish Fork.
coming.
Everybody would yell, car! And then everybody down the street's like, car, car! And everybody get out of the road.
And then once the car goes by, then you all get back out on the street and play
Yeah.
in the street all day. That was just normal.
I remember doing that too.
But we lived on a street where literally people did not drive down the street unless they lived on the
Yeah.
street. Because it wasn't a through street.
That was how it was in Spanish Fork.
Yeah.
Like, and I've been to the house that you grew up in Pine Hills, and I
Yeah.
feel like the community, the neighborhood was very similar to my house that I grew up in Spanish Fork.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we had a similar experience that way. But then when we moved to the country, we were like one of 2 houses, and there was a fish hatchery too. And it was like this big adventure if we went to the fish hatchery.
Did you ever go fishing at the fish hatchery?
I never got to, but I think my brothers did.
Probably not supposed to anyway.
Yeah. What do you keep touching my nose for?
Yeah, I keep seeing all these little fluffy hair balls all over your face and microphone.
That's weird.
I
My
guess
nose
that's
is
what happens when
itchy.
we podcast early in the morning. We're all still covered in dust from the night before.
Be nice to each other.
Well, I think that's it for today's podcast. That's
Talking about bullies and bankruptcy and moving and
an update on our life today. So
Yeah.
thanks for tuning in.
1997. You were how old?
I would have been 10, almost 11.
Okay.
So in
Wow.
the next episode, we're going to talk about when my family moved to the country.
Moving to
'Cause
the
we kind of
country,
moved to the
gonna
country
eat a lot of
too.
Peaches.
We moved to a house
Yeah.
on a busy road, but it was in the middle of nowhere. We didn't
And
have a lot
it's
of
a
neighbors.
busy road, but not like to your house. People weren't like, your house was gated and away from the road.
It was it's basically like a country road, like a that was the road that people used to drive through, but it's not like there was a lot of houses or things to
Yeah.
do. It was just kind of a CR or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ocoee Popka Road. Anyway, we'll talk about that in the next episode. Thank you guys for tuning in to Beach Theory. I hope you guys liked it. Make sure to leave us a comment. Let us know what you think of season 2, and we got a lot more fun coming your way very soon.
All right. See you guys next time.
Pod the game.
Pause the game.